Hey there, welcome back to Science Fiction. I am Salim Sutterwala, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and friend, Carl Ames. Carl, how are you doing tonight?
What's going on? I'm doing great.
Doing great, excellent. Anything new, exciting going on? Any new collectibles collected? Any new uh
Eh, well, I was
toys?
just showing Aldo. I just finished painting a new figure last night. Um, this is an anime character. My Hero Academia is the name of the anime. The character is called Midnight. I just painted this last night. Uh,
Nice.
Maybe about 2 weeks of prep and work and sanding and getting all the little things and stuff together. But for the most part, I got a little My Hero Academia collection building right here. And that is the second one from that series that I've made. And I'm going to make another one pretty soon.
Nice.
And I've got some other ones that I've got pending that are drying and stuff for other stuff. But yeah, nothing else other than that. How about
Awesome,
you?
awesome. Yeah, I told you I signed up for the Marvel's Unlimited.
Yeah.
The DC has an equivalent type of app like for their comic book, so I signed up for theirs too. So I could read some like uh Batman and Flash comics that I haven't read in a while. Um I wanted to because I had found out that the Batman movie that's coming out this year, it's going to be based loosely or maybe directly off of two comic books. It's Batman Year One, which I've read already, and then there is another one called The Long Halloween, um, which is supposed to be pretty good. I have never read that one, so I'm probably gonna check that one out. But in
Mhm.
general, there's a lot of Batman stuff that I haven't read that I think it'll be worth having to read instead of buying like the comic books separately because that can get expensive too. The
Mhm.
app you just pay like an annual subscription fees the same way you pay for uh, Marvel app. It saves a lot of money, and I can just read it again like on the tablet. So
Right.
it's cool. Just more drowning myself in comic books and comic books only.
They're a
But
nice
yeah,
escape, aren't they?
what's that?
They're a nice escape.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. Like I've been reading like right before bed. Like I feel like other than watching like shows and some of these shows, just to catch up on like Peacemaker and stuff like that. Um, I um been reading comics. Like I said, I've read like I've been like zooming through the original Spider-Man. I'm hoping I get. It's like there's new like one like I said, I've read so many, but there's a lot of I haven't. So it's fun like reading uh storylines that I haven't read before. So it's been pretty cool. But yeah, it's been like I said, it's been fun just doing that, and then just getting more. I think it's nice not to watch as much TV, but just trying to uh, focus on that and just being active overall. But yeah, it's been doing that kind of stuff for the most part. But we do have a pretty fun show today. It should be a good conversation. I think you and I are both caught up on Peacemaker, so we'll
Mhm.
talk about that. But before we get into Peacemaker, there's a couple of fast flicks that we want to just kind of go over really quickly. So I'll let you lead off with that.
Yeah, so we couldn't, it's been a couple weeks since the picture was shared, but the actress, Leslie Grace, is playing Batgirl in the upcoming Batgirl movie, shared a first look of what the actual costume is going to look like on her. So we got her picture on the left of what her costume looks like, what she looks like in the costume, and then the comic book version here on the right. And I made sure I picked a good action shot so you can kind of see what this costume looks like in motion on Barbara and compare to this more still photo of Barbara on the left of Leslie Grace. I've seen a lot of discourse on the actual costume and how it looks and so on. And I think there's a whole lot of well, a lot of back and forth on whether it's good or bad and yada yada from people's opinions online. But Salim, I'd like to know, what do you think of this costume? Both the actual costume on the character as well as how Leslie Grace's version looks.
They look kind of similar to that picture. Like, I mean, there's maybe some minor differences, but it looks pretty like similar to. I think that it does. I don't. Maybe it my coloring on my monitor's off. I don't know if that's the case. But it looks nice. I mean, yeah, I think they look similar. Like I said, it's the picture on the comic picture that we have showing here compared to the picture posted what she's gonna wear in the movie. I think they look similar.
Yeah, I
What
think
do you?
maybe the purples, like you said, maybe the color is a little off because of lighting or something like that. But the purples right now just don't match. But that's, that could be also my picture that I chose is a lighter purple than some other artists would have colored it. So in
Right.
general, it's I think it's a very, very well accurate uh, depiction of this costume. Some colored, like the gloves are black versus yellow. Small things,
Oh
not
yeah,
really
small things
worth,
like that.
not really worth nitpicking at. But overall, I think the costume translates pretty well. But I think it looks great on her too. I think more people have an issue with how it looks on her and then the costume of choice for this movie, for this continuity of Batman, is what their issues are. But in general, I personally, this is actually my favorite Batgirl costume out of all of the costumes that she's had in her history, and this is a very
Like you
recent
mean from the
costume
comics?
from the comics, from the shows, from the movies. This is my favorite. Not the comic book version of this costume is my favorite costume of Batgirl. This movie version is pretty good. Again, I don't nitpick it that badly to say, oh, it looks bad or it looks great or anything like that. I think it's a good translation, but the comic book version is my favorite costume for Batgirl. I love it so much. I even made a figure which I have right here. I made this a year ago
Oh,
of this
nice.
costume because not to shamelessly self promote, but it's just more of a
No.
I am like actually do really like this costume so much that I made one. Um, and so, like I said, it's a relatively recent look for Batgirl in the comics. She's actually changed her costume several times since. I think this is maybe like 5 or 6 years old. But she's changed her costume a couple times since then. But this is still my favorite one. Um,
There's no I
yeah,
maybe the and I don't know if the picture just cuts off her feet, but I don't know if she has yellow boots on in
yeah,
her,
I can't
right?
tell. That's like the only picture that she took of, and so we can't see her feet at all.
Yeah.
Um, my only issue is so for anyone that has no idea that there's a Batgirl movie or why Batgirl's black or any of that stuff, if you go back to November, we had DC Fandom, which we did cover here on Science Fliction. So you can check that out on your podcast or go on YouTube. And to November, we have a whole DC Fandom episode. But we covered a little bit of the Batman trailer and talked about how that movie is going to tie in with this Batgirl movie because Commissioner Gordon is played by Jeffrey Wright, who is also the voice of the Watcher in the What If series. But Jeffrey Wright's black guy, so Commissioner Gordon is black, and Barbara Gordon is his daughter, so Barbara Gordon would be black. So we have a black Barbara Gordon Batgirl in this continuity of the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. That continuity is on Earth 2. So this is like separate from the whole Ben Affleck Batman, DCEU is a whole nother earth, it's a whole nother universe. So that's why it's different. And my only issue is why they're going with this Batgirl costume, because it's more of a relatively recent thing, where this Batman is like at the beginning of his, like they say, like Batman year one, year two. So she would most likely be just starting out. So this would be as presumptuously her first costume, which I think, I don't know if it rubs people the wrong way, but if it feels weird, it's just something. She had a long history of costumes, and then this one is a very recent one. But I really don't have a problem with how the costume looks. But I would rather her have a different costume, but it's not because of how it looks on her, or any of the misogynistic things that some people are saying online about, female characters and stuff like that, but something more of I like this costume as a more recent, fresher take on the character. So it also depends on how she's depicted, because also this Batgirl was very, I would say, energetic, very um, young-ish in approach and demeanor and stuff like that. So maybe that's what they're trying to connect. I want to see how they depict her, because Robert Pattinson's Batman doesn't seem like he's like very campy or childish or jokingly type of character. So I wonder how they're gonna play off of each other.
Right. Other thing I'll say too. So a couple of things. So with the coloring, they may be doing like a darker purple just because the movies are tend to be a darker, you
Right.
know, theme. Like doing a light purple would probably not suit the mood of the movie as
Mhm.
much as doing like a darker purple. The other thing, I don't know if you saw, I was just randomly looking, but there's like a scene, I guess. I sent it in here to the our private chat to Aldo. I don't know if he'll be able to pop it up from there. But there's like a random clip, basically, of her interrogating somebody off a window.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at it now.
So yeah, yeah, and Aldo has it up as well. So um, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Like she's interrogating some guy. This is a quick little clip. Yeah, so it should be interesting. Like I said, it's continuity with Robert Pattinson Batman. And that Batman is completely different. Like they've been hammering it, and Matt Reeves has been hammering it. That's completely different than what they've done in the regular with like Batfleck. Um, that Batman. So that's a different Batman compared to this Batman. That's one. I'll say this. That's one thing I have an issue with DC. Like I don't like that. Like I don't like that these are completely different storylines. Like I feel like they should, like, you can just make this like the same universe, but you're just telling the story of Batman when he was younger. You don't have to like make it a completely different universe. That's just weird to me. I don't know.
Well, for me, although I completely see your side of it and agree with you to a certain extent, it's frustrating because it's hard to have a discussion about DC movies to someone casual and tell, well, this one's here, but this one's here, and this one's here, but they don't relate, but this one does. And this movie came out last year, but that doesn't relate to anything that happened. It's hard to have that kind of discussion with someone casually and for them to follow it. But at the same time, this actually tracks to how their comic books work, because they have Earth One and Earth Prime and Earth Two and so on, where they have, the Justice Society of America in one Earth, where Power Girl and all of the original Green Lanterns and stuff came from, and you got Earth Prime, where there aren't any superheroes other than Superboy Prime, and you got Earth One, where Superman and all of that stuff. That's how their comic books work, and they've got Infinite Crisis and Final Crisis and all of this stuff. You know, uh, that's just how it is, and I hate to say you just have to accept it, because their comic books could be cleaned up, and they attempted to do that with
Mm-hmm.
Infinite Crisis, and then they went back and muddied it up and made multiverse again, and it's just how that is how it is. Unfortunately, they have multiple universes, and then I do like that. In the very least, they're not telling Matt Reeves, you have if you want to make a Batman movie, you have to use Ben Affleck, and you have to use, have to tell this story, and you have to do like it does allow them to have the freedom to tell whatever story they want to tell. So you can have Christopher Nolan come in and do his movies, and then have Matt Reeves do his movies, and then have a Joker movie, and they all just be independent and good. But it does also, it at the same time, it takes away some of the luster of all of this stuff continuing on, like the MCU does, where you can just watch everything and it all is connected. So yeah,
What
there's a
is
pros and cons.
Christopher Nolan's doing more DC movies?
No, I'm just talking about the Dark Knight and stuff. Like
Oh
those
yeah,
were independent from what's
I
going on
check.
now.
Yeah, well, I technically don't even count those as DC movies because they're not really lore as far as like comic book lore and stuff. It's more like if Batman was like a real person. Because if you look at it, there's no supernatural aspect to the Nolan verse. Like there's nothing
Well, I mean,
supernatural in
it's just
there.
they're just Batman movies. Batman isn't, super powered.
No, but Batman, there's a lot of supernatural aspects in Batman, like Ra's al Ghul using the Lazarus bit, uh, Bane using Venom. Like there's a lot of science fiction aspects to Batman that the Nolan universe doesn't touch any of that. It just straight up like, let's say Batman really was this really rich guy and was able to do all these things.
But
That's
didn't
what I connected it.
Bane didn't have Venom?
Nope. Nope.
I don't
He
remember
was
that.
just a
I thought he
really
did.
he was just a really strong guy, and it was the apparatus that he uses because it was just helping him breathe. That's it. It didn't
Really?
give him any, yeah, it didn't give him any
I guess I
extra
didn't pay
powers or
enough
anything like
attention to
that.
that movie. I legitimately, I've only seen the last. I don't even remember what it's called. The Dark Knight Rises. I've seen it once, and I probably only paid attention to the second half of it. So
Right. Yeah. It's just like a breathing mechanism that he uses. It's not like something that he injects himself to get stronger. He's just a really strong guy. That's all he is. Like, and then he talks about in the movie how, um, the reason he's so much stronger is because he's born in the darkness and like the way he was raised
mm,
built him up, and that's why his will is stronger than Batman. Everything about him is stronger. He was the original, like the you merely adopted the darkness. I was born in it, like type of thing. That's why he's like, oh, that's why I'm able to beat you. Obviously, in the comics, the reason he's able to beat him is because he's jacked up on Venom, and that's how he breaks Batman's back in the comic because he's able to just outmuscle him. And then obviously Batman then comes back with his Iron Batman costume and beats Bane like that. But yeah, so yeah, I kind of, I mean, I get like why people would say yeah that's DC still, but like I kind of don't, just because of that aspect that they don't connect like the supernatural ish stuff that you would find in the comics. Um, but yeah, it's, I mean, there are still good movies nonetheless.
all right. So let's move on. The next thing is actually, so the whole show, the rest of the show is going to be about Peacemaker in the first 4 episodes, which uh, I believe there's 8 episodes total of
Didn't we have
Peacemaker. But
didn't we have one
before
more
we
thing?
before we go into Peacemaker, we do have something that's kind of related to that. Although this was old news back in November.
Oh, okay.
Um, Back in November, one of the characters that is on Peacemaker, he's playing the character of Myrn. He is the I guess like the leader of this little group that they have on Peacemaker, the black guy, to be more specific. I don't want to say his name because it's like very difficult. I don't want to butcher it, so that's why. But although if you have that picture, he's one right in the middle, right behind James Gunn. This was back in November, and this was right around DC fandom time and stuff like that. But this is a cast photo of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. You can see Will Poulter on the far left. He was cast as Adam Warlock. So this was after that casting announcement that this guy also, again in the middle, he's going to be, he was also cast, but we didn't know at the time who he's going to be playing, unlike Adam Warlock. We know that. We still don't know, again, since November, we don't know exactly who he's going to be playing. in Guardians Volume 3. However, a lot of rumors are saying that he's going to be playing the High Evolutionary. So he is officially a part of this
Okay.
movie, and he's part of the James Gunn crew, I guess. But High Evolutionary is a villain, so to speak. I guess you could say he's a villain in the Marvel universe, with deep ties to Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff, and Pietro, Quicksilver, also to the X-Men, to I guess the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not really sure his affiliation with Guardians of the Galaxy, but the High Evolutionary um, could play a role and influence some events in Guardians 3, or maybe he's just some other guy. I mean, he's got to be someone important if he's part of this cast photo. So again, the rumors are High Evolutionary, but we shall see. Hopefully, they'll make some sort of announcement soon, because I believe that movie is coming next year. Next, I believe it's
20
2023, like
yeah,
spring.
2023. Yeah,
Yeah.
2023 is when it gets released.
Yeah, so we won't
Un
really see a
Unless they
trailer
push
or
it.
anything. Yeah.
Unless
Yeah,
they
we won't
push
see
it
a
every
trailer
other.
anytime soon, probably not until at the earliest, like Thanksgiving, at the very, very earliest. But hopefully they'll make an announcement soon about who he's playing and we can get some clarity. Start speculating.
Right, right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go with that movie. Just like we talked about in the past, they're gonna be probably removing some characters and then bringing in new characters to be in Guardians of the Galaxy. So it'll be interesting how they go about that, and it'll be pretty cool if they bring in the High Evolutionary. That'd be pretty neat. But yeah, let's go into our main topic of the show, the Peacemaker. We've There's 4 episodes in. We have a good understanding. So that's essentially half of the first season. I don't know if there's gonna be a second season. I'm just saying first season.
Hmm.
But it is obviously starting John Cena as Peacemaker from the comic book, and he's obviously plays the same character as from the Suicide Squad 2. So far, I let me hear your thoughts on the show. What do you think of it so far, as like the cast, the plot line, the storyline, and the way the show is going in your mind?
Okay, so watched the first episode, I want to say Thursday last week, or maybe Friday, or I don't know. It was probably Sunday. It was probably Sunday. But just watching that one episode, the first episode, after it was done, I was like, what the heck did I just watch? Like I don't like what was that? Like that was crazy and also weird. And um it's partly in an unfamiliar territory, as well as this story is just legit weird for the first episode, like being in the dark, and then all of the crazy shenanigans that happened in that first episode. I'm just like, wow, this is definitely a direction I wasn't expecting. um and then it got a little bit more clear as the story went on, but it's still very wild. um I liken it to Deadpool. Like, I feel like its approach is similar to Deadpool. It's not fourth wall breaking like Deadpool, so I'm not saying that. It's not as I would say Deadpool is a little bit more childish, but for what it's worth, it still has elements of that. Peacemaker has elements of that, and then uh yeah, it's just a little bit over the top, a little bit more over the top than I was expecting. I would say this is definitely, even like, if Suicide Squad with James Gunn was like pushing the bar, Peacemaker went past that. Like they pushed over the line to go over the top, in mostly good ways, not necessarily everything good. I'm relatively neutral, maybe a little past favorable, towards favorable on the show overall. I do like John Cena a lot. um his character is fairly fairly reasonable on as far as comedy and his story, his journey so far is good. I really enjoy all of that. All of the other characters aren't bad. Again, they're not bad. They're not great. Including Vigilante, he's okay. We have Leota, who's here on the far right. That's the character that I probably have the most issues with. I was telling Aldo before the show that in general, I don't like annoying characters, and she's playing a purposely like the character is meant to be annoying, so it's not a knock on the actress whatsoever. But the character is like they set her up to be the annoying one, at least in the first couple of episodes. And if you like that sort of thing, that's fine. But for me personally, I don't like characters that are purposely annoying or meant to come off that way. So um, she rubs me the wrong way for now, and maybe that gets better. Love Eagly. Eagly's awesome. And the other ones, we have Harcourt and Economos. They're okay. Nothing terribly special with them so far in these 4 episodes. Um, Overall, it's just an okay show for me. Maybe if I had to force out a rating, I would say it's like a 6 out of 10. Yeah, I don't love it, but I'll keep watching just one because there's not much else to watch. But if I had other things to compete with this, or um, basically, I don't even know when it comes out. I think it goes up every Thursday. I'm not going to be running to my TV to go watch it. I'm just gonna I'll watch it leisurely. And that's kind of a good way of assessing how I feel about it. When WandaVision was on, it came up every Friday. Friday morning while I'm eating breakfast, I'm watching it. I know plenty of people watched it at midnight. I just like sleeping, but it is the first thing I watched in the morning. Um, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, I watched all of those right away. This I feel like I can put it off for a while, and I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I don't feel like it's so great that I need it directly injected into my veins or anything like that. It's just it's all right. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, so I once again, you and I have a different take, which is good.
Hmm.
I think this show is fun. It's I like. So like you, I don't have a background on the comic books. I never read the Peacemaker comic books. But just doing light research just seems like a little more lighthearted. Obviously, there DC does more adult shows. The whole show is like obviously with the how much violence there is, aggressive language there is, stuff like that. So there's more adult show compared to what MCU does. Is more of like a family friendly. But yeah, I like it. Like the opening sequence is so like random. I like random things like that. Like just trying to be unique in that respect. It's it's a funny opening sequence with the dancing and things like that. And then yeah, John Cena is awesome in this. Like he's as an actor, was just watching him progress over the years. He's gotten so much better,
Yeah.
um and every character he plays, like he doesn't, I don't feel like he necessarily plays the same person. Like a lot of people, like have like it'll be like this guy is uh Peacemaker is just John Cena. It's just he's
Hmm.
just being John Cena. It's not. I don't think that's what it is. Like I feel like he's taking this character to his own, and making it kind of his own in a sense, and adding flavors to it, but doing a good job representing the character itself. I like Adebayo. I don't know if I dislike her. She's kind of like I'm trying to feel her out still, because like so I guess she's Amanda Waller's daughter in this
Hmm.
show, um, and trying to figure out, like, obviously she's, I don't know if she's learning new things about her mom. Like, I don't know if she knows like her mom's like a kind of like not a good person. Like Amanda Waller is a very much not a good person. Like Amanda Waller is like Nick Fury but worse, like in comparison to like
Hmm.
the Marvel. universe, like Amanda Waller will not hesitate to do anything. Like they show in Suicide Squad, she's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna kill everyone here. I don't care. We need to finish this mission. I don't care if everyone here dies." In that sense, she's willing to sacrifice whatever to get the mission complete. And that's the thing I don't like. Is she like is this like a reality shock to her that her mom is this person, and that or she's always known that her mom is this person, and she's coming to terms with it and listening to these people talk about Amanda Waller, like her teammates talk about Amanda Waller, because obviously they don't know that she's Amanda Waller's daughter.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, it's just interesting there. The and we'll talk about some of the characters, just a couple of the characters later that I wanted to highlight. But one another aspect of the show, I like the hardcore character, and she kind of I don't know, does the actress kind of remind you of Michelle Williams
I don't know enough Michelle Williams to make that.
from Venom? She was in Venom.
Oh,
She's
that
been in a
girl.
lot of different, yeah.
Yeah, a
Like
little bit.
yeah, it's funny. Like when before, like I was just watching the random trailers and stuff like that. Before I really looked into it, I really thought it was Michelle Williams. Like, oh, so Michelle Williams is just doing random comic book shows now because or comic book stuff now because obviously she was in Venom and now she's doing this. So I was like, oh, that's not Michelle Williams. That's a completely different person.
Yeah,
So
and
that
I
was
was
kind of
just looking her up real quick while I was doing this, getting ready. Uh, Harcourt's, the actress's name is Jennifer Holland. Two
mhm.
fun facts about her is she's from Chicago and she's dating James Gunn. So there you go.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
She got the hookup.
Hey,
But
hey,
yeah, I was like, oh, well, okay, how convenient for her. But that's great.
she.
But
I love.
she's really great in the show. I do like her.
No, yeah, I love the scene in the bar when those random guys are trying to pick her up, and she's like, like leave me the hell alone in a sense, and then the other dude tries to come in and tries to like get physical with her, and she just like
Right.
fucking kicks his ass.
That's
Um,
cool.
that's awesome. That was pretty good. But yeah,
And then Peacemaker is like, oh man, that was so hot.
yeah, because he's trying to see if they can hook up because he's just been out of prison after like what 4 years he said, right?
Yeah, 4 years.
Um, yeah, so yeah, but like I said, the show's fun so far. I mean, I think it's picking up every episode. Like the first
Yeah.
episode was like, what's going on here? It was intrigue to me. It was intriguing. I was like, okay, the show's intriguing. Let's see what's going on here. And every show episode, I feel like they're picking up and they're doing more character, like showing the characters' personalities a little bit more, trying to develop them. The storyline, I think, is getting interesting, and you're starting to find out more about like the main villain of the storyline, which is the we'll get into is the butterflies, um, or maybe the butterflies aren't the main villain. We'll find out because one of the characters before they die um, says, you're not sure what, you know, this might not be, they're not who you think they are. So we'll find out. But I think it's been good. It's been picking up. Like I said, every episode, I feel like it's probably getting better. And it's been enjoyable to me. Like, I mean, the only reason I don't watch them right away is I don't. So my friend downloads them shows. I don't have HBO Max, so like
Gotcha.
whenever he downloads the episode, I tend to watch it. Um, excuse me, but yeah, that's my thoughts on the show so far. I've enjoyed it. I think it's entertaining. I think it's complete. I can't compare it to like what MCU is doing, like with WandaVision and all that, because they're completely different things. They're like obviously the comic book shows are that's connection is there,
Mhm.
but they do it completely different from MCU. They're like completely different type of shows. The feeling of the show is different. They're not um, they're just going in their own direction, which is obviously good. I like the change up. Like I'm very much a both of a DC and a Marvel. Obviously, I've always been more partial to Marvel, uh, but I like DC as well, and I'm glad to see DC is doing things that are like actually good as opposed to just bringing out like really garbage movies that seem forced and just bad storylines and trying to uh show too many characters in a new movie that you can't really understand what the character is. But yeah, I think it's good. And then a show like this, especially when you're like you said, when you're introducing this many characters, it's always better to do a show, because that way you can open out uh the storyline more and flesh out what these characters are. But yeah, those are my general thoughts on the show itself. I know we have a couple of random like Easter eggs or things that we noticed that we wanted to elaborate on. So I'll let you go first again. I know you wanted to mention something about the pocket dimension.
Yeah, I just wanted to just point that out, just in case that was something that was confusing, or I thought it was just really cool, in the very least, despite his father, that he has at his father's house. His father has a whole room that looks like it goes to the garage, but you put in a secret code, and it opens up like a gate to another pocket dimension that has all of this junk in it, and highly advanced technology in there that goes on for, well, I don't know how much stuff is, or if all that stuff back there is decoration. Like, who knows? Because they don't really explore deep into this room. All of this stuff for Peacemaker, all of the different helmets are pretty much like right by the door. So, other than that, and the costume that we'll get into shortly, that's like pretty much nearby. But he has all of these different helmets that were made by his father. So, I mean, there right there is just enough that his father was grooming Peacemaker to wear and training him to, to be prepared to have all of these helmets to use them for something. And then there's that one that before that joke that they were making, the helmet that will give you scabies, just you, no one else, just in case. Why would I need scabies? Just sometimes you might need to give yourself scabies like that. Okay, we'll see. Like, hopefully he has to, because he did. I'm pretty sure he took that helmet when he went in there and took all the helmets. He took all of them except for maybe one, and I think it was the one on the bottom right he left there. So he probably has the scabies helmet in his bag. So
Right.
we'll
I
see
think
about that.
I think one of the helmets are like one of the original, like the original helmet that he wears in the comics too. Like, just I think they just had that as like an Easter egg, like kind of a thing. Like, oh, that's the what his helmet looks like in the comic books. Um, I don't know if he'll ever wear it, but yeah, I noticed when I was kind of looking at the helmets, and then when I was randomly looking at like what he looked like in the comic books. I was like, oh, that helmet looks similar. So it was pretty interesting to see that.
Well, yeah, that's all I got.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had more.
Mhm.
But yeah, so there's two characters that I thought were interesting. I mean, all the characters are interesting for the most part. I think they're doing a good job with them. But I was confused, not confused. I was intrigued at how much Robert Patrick was going to be in this movie. Like, if he was just like in it from the beginning, how big of a role he would have. And then after the show, as we get into it more, we find out who he is and everything like that. So I looked him up and to do a little research on him, and it looks like in the comics. So over here they have him in episode 3, I think, right when he goes to prison.
Yeah.
um he they so the when he's in prison, they have a bunch of like the white nationalists or whatever they are. They bow down to him and do that, the Nazi salute or whatever. um and they I think they mentioned the white dragon. Um so although if you want to throw up the picture of the white dragon in the comics, that's what he looks like. um so he's like a major white supremacist. Was the original White Dragon William Heller, the original White Dragon in DC Comics? He finds like the Aryan Empire, and his name, and in the comics he goes by William Hell. But then he comes back later as the White Dragon, where he is suited in this armor, and joins like the Fourth Reich. Um, but in Peacemaker, so in the comics, Peacemaker's father is a character called Wolfgang Schmidt. Um, Although if you want to throw up that picture of him in the comics, nope, not that one. The other picture I sent you early, just before we started recording or started on air, of the character from the comics. Yep, that one. So that's Wolfgang Schmidt. Um, Basically, uh, it's a combination, like I said, a combination of the White Dragon, and this character has his father. So in Peacemaker, he's White Dragon, but he's kind of also this character as well. Like his father in the comic was like an abusive, um, racist character as well. So that was interesting. I mean, I don't know if interesting is the right word, but I just found that like, oh, okay, so they're kind of adding to the character more than it's not just exactly who he is in the comics. And the other character I should say, I found interesting right away because I've seen this character many times in DC related shows, and I was like, hey, this name sounds familiar. And as soon as I heard the name, I googled and I was like, "Yep, I've seen this character in two different shows, DC related, but they're different in every show compared to the comic book. There's a completely mashup of this character, and that is Vigilante. So there, like I said, there's three different. So this is Peacemaker's Vigilante, and let me give you a description of in the comics. So Vigilante in the comics is a New York district attorney. Um, who's very a big believer in the law and the judicial system, and that all comes kind of like comes down on him, like he it comes kind of crashing down on him when his wife and children are killed, and they're like in explosions by the mob. They've like hit by the mob or something like that, which will make it sound familiar. It's very similar. He's a very similar character to the Punisher for the
Mhm.
MCU. So this puts him in the comics into like a downward spiral. Kind of, he takes on the mantle, the vigilante, and his name is Adrian Chase in the comics as well. Um, and then this is one of the characters in the comics, Vigilante Adrian Chase, the one that the Peacemaker is playing. But obviously, the Peacemaker adaptation is a little more ridiculous personality. He's not like a serious personality, and he's not like a district attorney. He's just some
Mhm.
kid that works at a local fast food restaurant, or a dine-in restaurant, whatever.
Works
If
at
you have it,
Denny's,
Denny's, yeah, Denny's. There you go.
basically.
Yeah. So this vigilante is one that does have similarity to the comics. The next vigilante, it kind of separated the character in Arrowverse. So, uh, although if you want to throw in that one picture yep, that one. So that's vigilante in,
Looks terrible, by the way.
yeah, in the Arrowverse, but it's kind of similar to, oh, not, I don't want to say similar, but the concept, like he's wearing whatever, like the face mask and things like that. So in this Arrowverse, the vigilante is a cop named Vincent Sobel, rather than Adrian Chase. And it's revealed in one of the seasons that he was supposedly deceased, and he's a deceased partner of one of the characters on the show, on one of the team, which is Dina Drake, who becomes the Black Canary. But yeah, that's a different character, and he's again a vigilante in a sense. He takes the law into his own hands and he kills, um, whoever, and then he eventually has a conflict with Team Arrow, um, and he obviously fights them or whatever. And then moving on to sticking with Arrowverse, Adrian Chase plays a different character altogether, called and Adrian Chase, plays a character called Prometheus. So, in the Arrowverse, Chase was born as a character called Simon Morrison. Um, and it shows like his father was in like he was like his father was like a Starling City criminal that gets killed by Oliver Queen during his more like lethal days, because earlier in the show Oliver Queen resorts to killing as well. So he basically this Adrian Chase then goes to like the shows him going to like Talia al Ghul to get training to become this character, become an archer as well in a sense. And in the Arrowverse, Adrian Chase is a district attorney. So that's similarities there, but obviously instead of being a vigilante, he becomes this character called Prometheus. And then finally, Vigilante. This is the original Vigilante. This is from like the golden era of comics, from the Action Comics back in like 1940, where this character was portrayed in. Did you ever watch those Justice League
I did, but
show,
it's been a long time.
series? Those I like. I really like those series. There was like 2 seasons of them, but it was really good. Now this is in season 2, where they expand the Justice League more and have more characters involved. But basically, he is this Western themed hero named Greg Sanders, um, from the Golden Era, and this is the original Vigilante. Eventually, in the comics, the Adrian Chase Vigilante does come about, but it just hit me. I was like, when I first heard the name Vigilante, um, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this character before, and lo and behold, he's been in multiple times DC related stuff that shows that have used this character one way or another. So I thought that was really funny and interesting. Um, and then lastly, I had a. This isn't anything that I thought of as I was doing my research. I found this interesting just because it popped up. There was like a theory going on, a lot of fans, and it could be nothing, but the main villains in this show are the butterflies, supposedly the butterflies.
Mhm.
Um, and in the comics, the butterflies are like these Venusian mind worms, to my understanding. Um, and this character, Mr. Mind, that's basically what I think what he is. And if you did you watch Shazam by chance?
Nope, still haven't watched it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, so it's kind of a spoiler for you, but um
Don't worry.
this character shows up in the very end, like as a post-credit scene, if you will.
The one in this
Uh
picture?
yeah, this guy right here, this Mr. Mind, he's like a caterpillar, a genius mind controlling caterpillar, like that conquer planet, conquer from planet Venus, with, like I said, with mind control powers. And he's a old classic of Shazam, like a villain, classic enemy of Shazam. And they're saying there's a theory that he could be what's behind the butterflies, essentially. Um, but we'll
Yeah,
find
yeah,
out.
because this
And
picture is not very intimidating.
yeah, he's a very small, he's a tiny little character. Like he's a caterpillar. He's a tiny little caterpillar, and and people can't hear him talk, so he uses that. Do you see that little box that he has or whatever,
Mhm.
the red blinking? That's like a voice box that he talks into, basically, so people can hear him talk. that's that's such a bizarre character. It's funny, but yeah,
I know
that's
I know Marvel has like a list, a good amount of weird, bizarre characters like DC, but I swear DC, they just go for it even more. They just
yeah. Well,
like Starro, like this one of the Justice League's first villains is a big alien starfish. Like they don't use him that much in comics because they know he's ridiculous, but they have to because he's still one of their first villains.
right.
So like they bring him back and they try to make him as legitimate as possible, but it's still a
Right.
giant starfish at the end of the day. Now we're looking at a caterpillar that's gonna take over Earth. Okay.
Right, right. It's funny, like it'd be funny if they bring this character and connect it to Shazam somehow. They probably won't. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but it was a funny fan theory that I thought you know, if that happened, um, it would definitely be it would be very interesting. And I guess James Gunn hinted that one of the characters that is not Peacemaker would be back again in another DC related film. So maybe that's a connection, like something with the butterflies and whoever's controlling the butterflies. If it is Mr. Mind, he's going to be back again because I think they are still making a Shazam 2.
Right, it'll be
Um, so
after Black Adam.
right, so if he comes back again, that character, Mr. Mind, maybe that's what James Gunn meant, maybe. But yeah, just a theory. It's not anything that's breaking like news or anything like that. That it's been confirmed or corroborated, but I just thought it was fun and it would be interesting if they did go that route. Because I'm guessing I don't know if Peacemaker is supposed to be canon to like the Snyder's verse stuff.
The
I'm
Snyder
guessing.
Cut, I don't know, but it is worth with the DCEU, yeah.
Yeah, no, it is DCEU, but I don't. I'm guessing it is because I thought that the original Suicide Squad was the
Yes,
first Suicide Squad was, and this is a sequel directly to the first Suicide Squad. So I'm guessing that that's all canon
mhm.
in a sense. So, yep, that's all I had as far as little Easter eggs or characters that I thought were interesting to talk about further. Any other final thoughts for you before we wrap up? Our show didn't go too long today. We didn't have as much to talk about as we normally do, but that's okay. I think it's fun for people to um, not have to listen to us
Well, I got
rant too
Ed
much.
Bone here. Just want to know what we're talking about. We're talking about Peacemaker. That's what the episode's about. Peacemaker. We just chatted about the first 4 episodes. Um, and speaking of Peacemaker, one thing that I feel, I don't know, it's just I don't know if it would ever work out, or at least it wouldn't doesn't really make sense to me. But kind of a shame that you have John Cena playing Peacemaker in as an official DC character, but you
Hmm.
also have Dwayne the Rock Johnson as a DC character playing Black Adam, and those two are huge WWE superstars. And because of their characters that they're playing, have absolutely no reason to be on screen together at the same
Right.
time. Like, um, that would be awesome. Like I used to watch wrestling at least when The Rock was in his heyday. I didn't really watch any John Cena stuff, but I know he's very popular. It would be awesome to see them on screen fight each other, like as official actors as opposed to wrestling actors. But there's like no way that Peacemaker and Black Adam should be on screen together for any reason at all. Maybe like if they do like a Avengers Endgame sort of thing and they just throw everyone in there, if that actually happens at some point with DC, if they plan, I don't even know. I guess they would have to be like an Infinite Crisis sort of situation, and just okay, let's just throw everyone in our movies together. Uh, which who knows if they're actually planning on that? It doesn't seem like it. Um, but I would love to see that. But I
Yeah.
would love to see Cena and Dwayne Johnson in the same movie, you know, together, but not Peacemaker and Black Adam. I have no desire to see those characters, but I want to see those actors.
Right, right. It'll be interesting. I know John Cena, I don't know if you recently saw, um he kind of put his hat in the ring to want to be the thing for MCU for Fantastic Four because I guess they're starting to be essentially Ben Grimes. They're starting to cast, I guess, uh essentially for Fantastic Four. There's rumors
Mhm.
that this show might be um the movie might be coming along faster than people originally thought because if they're already starting to cast, that means they're not that long away from them to starting to shoot the movie. So that'll be interesting. Like I know you're not big on who you want casted, but I thought that would be interesting. That he would be actually a pretty good Ben Grimes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to see it without seeing how they're gonna make him look. Because Cena's a big guy, but obviously the thing is way bigger, so it would
Well,
be
the thing is, but
CG
so
and all
is
that.
Ben Grimes is a big guy too. Like in the comics, he's a
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
he's like this muscular dude that, and then obviously the CG would be like the same way they do probably the Hulk. I'm sure it's not going to be like him and just a rubber costume. I doubt that's probably going to be a lot. His maybe not even his voice. They'll probably get like again like the way they get Vin Diesel to do Groot. They'll probably get someone to do like or maybe
Well,
they'll use
it'll
some
be
kind
like
of robotics or like not robotics like a voice tuner to. He'll be Cena talking, but they'll tune his voice or something. I don't know.
yeah, because I don't see Cena's natural voice being a good voice for Groot, but not to say he couldn't,
For the thing,
like for the thing. Excuse me, but just like they do with Mark Ruffalo with the Hulk, like he still acts as the Hulk. He is like still acting and doing all that punching and movement and stuff, but all the CG changing his face and making him bigger and
right?
all of that, so they can do that for Cena. It's just whether or not I feel like Cena can do a voice that would be good enough for the thing, or would they have to change it, all that stuff. But I wouldn't mind either way because as long as they get um, a good Doctor Doom, I don't really care about the rest for the most part.
Right, right.
Yeah.
What we had another question here. It looks like I guess somebody King Pookie Nation, a big fan of Star Wars, asked us if we like the Boba Fett episode today. Unfortunately, we have not watched that yet, King Pookie. We will. I promise. For you, only for you, we will get to Boba Fett. I'll watch it. I don't know if Carl will, but we can still discuss it. We'll probably get Joe Mandel, who's a big Star Wars fan, on the show or something like that, and to have him discuss it with us, just to get a deep dive. Just for you, I promise you that. Stick with us. I promise you, we'll get to that just for you, and all the other Star Wars fans that are out there. But yeah, just to wrap up Peacemaker here, I know we kind of went on a random tangent there, like we always do, because mostly because of me, because I'm ADD and I always take us on a tangent. But
Mhm.
Peacemaker, yeah, like I said, I like the show so far. I'm interested to see the way, especially the last episode ended. Obviously, them showing that the leader of the group is probably a butterfly or is a butterfly, um, and it will interesting to find out more. So what a butterfly is and what their motives are, if they're good, if they're actually good, or if they're bad. Maybe if Amanda Waller doesn't like them, maybe they are good. You never know. But obviously, the way they go about doing things is not exactly good because they're eating people's brains and controlling people. So who
Yeah, and
knows?
just even mentioning that from the way they're presenting the story, it doesn't seem like Amanda Waller even knows about the butterflies because I mean,
Maybe
it's the thing is confusing, at least right now, with this previous episode with Mern being a butterfly. Is Mern was the reason why they're on this mission to go kill the butterflies to stop the alien invasion. He's one of
right,
the aliens. So what is his motivation really? And um does is he doing this from a directive from uh I forgot her name already.
Amanda Waller.
Waller. Is it a directive from Waller, or is he just say I need a team to take care of a thing, and then he just gets this team from Waller, and she puts her daughter on the team because she doesn't know what he's up to. Like it
Right, and
I don't know.
the other thing we'll find out too, maybe he wasn't a butterfly all the time, all along, and he became one as they got into the mission. Like maybe
Possible.
one of the
Mhm.
that could be possible too. Like he could have been himself, and then one of the butterflies infiltrated and got into him somehow. Obviously when they go into that mission in episode 3, when they're trying to rescue Cena or Peacemaker and Vigilante, maybe somehow a butterfly gets into him from there. You
Mhm.
never know. So yeah, we'll be interesting. Like I said, I like the show. I think you're still whatever on the show. We'll see how. I think, like I said, I think they're getting better each episode. And we'll find out what they do more so as the season goes on, and we'll have a final wrap up on Peacemaker once the uh, other 4 episodes are released, and that's probably going to be maybe another month or so away, I would imagine, just because they're releasing now. They're releasing 1 episode every month or every week, I should say.
Mhm.
I don't know if they'll have a break in between that, like as far as release time. They'll probably just do 1 episode a week until the season's over with. But anyways, that's a wrap for today's episode of Science Fliction. I appreciate everyone tuning in and checking us out. Obviously, please continue to watch any previous episode that you may have missed on the Barroom Network on YouTube, where you can watch us live or join us live usually Wednesdays at 9 p.m. and then also watch any old episodes, like I said, you may have missed. And then you can also listen to the podcast side on Barroom Network under any major or minor podcast platforms. And obviously keep checking out all the other great shows that the Barroom has to offer, various different topics from sports to uh, current affairs, different things going on in that regards as well. So again, for myself, Salim Sutterwala, and for Carl Ames, we will see you next time.
All right. Have a great evening, everyone.